that's such a good question, man. I try often to flash back to that because I do think it keeps me grounded and it keeps my foundation set and what I dreamed of as a child, and really after as many days as possible, and say today was a good day, the whole thing. For whatever reason, I am taken more legitimate now than I was before. Oh, it was, dude. You didn't want to know me back then. That was a sad time in life.
Gee. What's up, and welcome back to another episode of Redirected. I'm your host, Andrew East, and this is a show where we sit down and talk with people about how they made it through some of life's unexpected events. Today, we sit down and talk with a crowd favorite, Ben Higgins, who appeared on The Bachelorette and The Bachelor and a couple other TV shows, and we talk about how he got into doing reality TV, and he also shares about the things he's doing now, including a podcast of his own and a company that he started called Generous Coffee, which has a great charitable mission behind it. I enjoyed this conversation with Ben, and if you haven't yet, make sure that you subscribe to the show and maybe give it a rating. Our goal here is to help inspire and encourage others to make it through whatever unexpected or challenging event that they are confronting in life, and you subscribing and rating helps us accomplish that goal. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this one with Ben Higgins.
Ben Higgins, thank you for joining the show today, man. Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, man. Thanks for having me.
Dude, I just got to say right off the bat that it is good to meet a fellow Hoosier.
Dude, there's something about people from Indiana that just stands out. Yeah. I think it's just our forced simplicity. But man, it's nice to meet you too.
Yeah, so I grew up in Indianapolis. I know you're from Warsaw, which is kind of out in the boondocks, but you went to IU, right?
I did. I graduated from Indiana in 2012. Grew up in Warsaw, and then moved out to Denver.
Nice, man. You loving it out west?
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I miss Indiana. I miss a lot of parts of it. The thing I don't miss is the weather. The weather is rough in Indiana, and I don't miss that. But everything else I do miss about it. But I love Denver. It's one of the best cities I've ever been to.
Do you have plans of ever moving you or the family back to Indiana?
No, you know what I would love? My dream would be to spend like July and August in Indiana. So somehow find a way to be like summers in Indiana, winters in Denver, or wherever else. But like summers in Indiana.
Wow, that's that old people style right there. Talking about vacation homes and everything, Ben. I dig it, man. You're an only what?
I have a theory that if you get to know me better, that if I can like set my life up to be like an old person's early in life, then as I get older, my lifestyle doesn't have to change too much, and I'll be happy. So yeah, like I want to act like I'm retired early, so that when I do retire, it's not a big change.
Does that include Velcro shoes and wearing the same polo every day, or?
You know, you'd laugh, but I do own a pair of Velcro that I wear often. Yep.
I can't judge, man. No harm. You're an only child though, too. So my wife, Shawn, is an only child. I grew up middle of 5, and I really have begun to understand and appreciate the differences that having siblings can lead to, you know? But
yeah, so I mean, I'm assuming your wife is just a tremendous human, but she probably had, at least we'll say it, right? But I would assume like there's things that you're noticing and that she probably never even realized that happened. It's kind of been caused by being an only child. I am an only child. You know, I try really hard in my life to not act like one, because I've met some really horrid only children.
You seem pretty mellow, kind of understanding and considerate to other people, which, you know, all things considered is a adversity to overcome if you're an only child. But
dude, thank you for that. Yeah, I hope so. I don't know. Maybe not. You'd have to let me know.
Hey, so this show is all about people who have had interesting career pivots, and you certainly qualify for that. I'm curious, going into IU, what were your plans for life in your career?
Yeah, that's such a good question, man. I try often to flash back to that because I do think it is like it keeps me grounded and it keeps my foundation set and what I dreamed of as a child and as a young adult to kind of where I'm at now. And when I went to IU, my dream was to really be in some type of work environment that had a tangible impact on people. Like the thing I wanted was always to find an inner like purpose to why I was doing what I was doing. Not saying that I had to necessarily be in like any type of like altruistic like workplace, but even if I was in software, I'd be wanting to work for a software company that's helping humans develop better lives.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of my path in college. That was kind of my foresight. And so walking into Indiana University, I got a business degree with the hope that one day I'd be working in some type of business that was giving back.
So I did notice that you had a post where you're trying to help somebody raise funds for like a YWAM mission. Are you involved with Youth with a Mission or any mission organizations?
Yeah, definitely. So a part of my story, it's always like interesting, and it's been really great for me personally. But my life is like is super confusing, I think, if you don't recognize or realize that like Jesus is at the center of it. And so a lot of what I do, people are like, "Oh, that's great, but you're doing it to be self-serving." Well, at some level, yeah, I really enjoy the feeling of not feeling like I'm scum. That's a good feeling. The other part of that is I do believe it is like a calling, and also an opportunity based on my faith. And so that's always a good way to kind of, for me in business or in any type of relationship or any type of public setting, is to get that out there, because if not, a lot of it's just like, well, why do you do this stuff? And it's like, well, yeah, I guess it doesn't make a lot of sense if you don't realize that I fully believe in Jesus. I am involved in a couple organizations, one called Humanity and Hope United. It's a nonprofit that does community development out of Honduras. YWAM came from, I met this wonderful human who has just been sick her whole life, like in a hospital her whole life. And she finally started to get on the road to recovery. And part of what she wanted to do in this kind of chapter of health, because it wasn't going to last forever, was to go on into the mission field and to serve people that have maybe not heard about Jesus. And so that's why I made that post. I don't do anything really with them operationally, but I wanted to support her because I believe in what they're doing.
I gotta say, I'm slightly surprised, but even more impressed by you throwing around Jesus. I feel like in the Hollywood celebrity lifestyle, that's a kind of a rare thing to be talking about, you know?
Yeah, it might be. It's wild. You kind of get out there to LA and you start to realize that there's this like underground belief group and faith group that's really working hard to us, and they just haven't maybe had the opportunity, or it's not attractive in the public setting to talk about it. But for me, I don't think nothing about this world benefits me at all if it isn't going to point to something bigger than I am. And I mean, the cool part is it feels like the more and more I point towards Jesus, or try to, I don't know if I do it great, but at least I try, the cooler and cooler opportunities come about. And so the more and more like real rich conversations I get to have. And so, yeah, I don't know. I guess I've never dreamt of being famous, but I always dreamed of having a purpose, and that's what this has kind of led to.
Have you've always had that perspective, or was that a learning process? Because, to a different degree, having married the woman that I did, I've been a part of the Hollywood celebrity culture a little bit, and I feel like there's learning phases that go with it. So I'm curious if you were just blessed with that perspective, or it was learned over time.
Oh no. So like there's a whole story behind it where God completely rocked my world. Like I think if I would have been on The Bachelor 10 years ago, this whole thing looks a lot different for a lot of reasons. But there's a moment in my life where God showed up big time, and kind of, for lack of a better term, like wrecked me in the most beautiful ways. And that did two things there. One, it showed me that God does exist, and two, it gave me a perspective that God really cares. And so that kind of set the foundation to then leading into this time on television, where when you know that God exists and you know that God cares, it almost in a sense forces you, I think, follow that. Like, I want to follow truth no matter where it's at. Like, I want to live a life of truth and follow truth no matter where it is. And if the truth of God that exists, a God that loves and a God that cares, then if that truth is there, then you have to live a life representing that. So that's it. I think that's what happened to me. And no, it definitely would not have been a constant thing. It still is a struggle at times, but that's it.
Cool. I wasn't planning on talking about that, but I appreciate you diving in. So talk to me about how the whole Bachelorette sequence went down.
Yeah, wild, man. So here's my backstory. I'm graduating Indiana University. I moved to Peru, South America, because I cannot find a job, nor do I necessarily want to find a job. I go there with my buddy. I have this really serious girlfriend that I think's apple of my eye, because I wasn't the apple of her eye, and just wrecked. Come back to the States because I'm heartbroken, and I pick up a job at this all sums up here soon. Pick up a job at a youth center. My boss at the time was like, Ben, are you really, with a college degree, gonna like pretty much volunteer your time to work at a youth center forever? And I was like, yeah, it's pretty nice. I live at home with my parents. I don't pay for much, and I make $10 an hour. This is a pretty good deal. And she's like, Ben, you were made for so much more. My brother has a job opening in Denver, and I want you to go out and take it. So I trusted her opinion. I knew that I needed to step up a bit at that point. I never wanted to be the only child that lives at home for the rest of his life. And so I grew up here and moved out to Denver, took this job, got out to this workplace, and I was still a sad, lost little guy. And one of the ladies in the office says, hey, The Bachelor is coming for casting to Denver. Can I take you? Because I think you need some excitement in your life. And I said, I'm not going to casting, but if you sign me up and they call me, then I'll follow up from there. And that's exactly what happened. We sat down, filled out the paperwork. They called a week later, and this whole thing started really because I was just lost. Like, I was just boring. Like, nothing really. I was writing user manuals in a basement for a software company at the time, and I was single, and I didn't have any friends in Denver. And so this was just a way to shake life up a bit.
Gotcha. First of all, to describe yourself as a sad, lost little guy.
Yeah,
that's
man.
A pretty bleak picture right there, man.
Oh, it was, dude. You didn't want to know me back then. That was a sad time in life.
Jeez. So then you go through The Bachelorette. Was it an easy decision at that point to become The Bachelor?
Yeah, honestly it was. I mean, my time on The Bachelor was great, and The Bachelor at the time I had a great friendship with, but we were friends, and I was pretty clear. And so Caitlin and I ended things, and then The Bachelor was kind of the next step that they asked, like pretty much right away. They're like, would you want to be The Bachelor? And I was like, this whole thing was fun, and it was a lot cooler than what I was doing. And I really do, like, at this point, being from Indiana, I was 25, and I'm 30 now. That was 5 years ago. At 25, I was my only friend that wasn't in a serious relationship or married. So I was kind of like the outsider looking in. So I was like, I'm ready for a relationship. Like, my friends are all in that place. I want to be in that place. It fits my lifestyle pretty well. And my job was getting a little better. And so, the Bachelor was easy because it kind of aligned with everything else I was wanting to do in life.
Yeah, that's cool. So oddly enough, Shawn and I have like a lot of connections to The Bachelor, Bachelorette. So I played college football with Jordan Rodgers, and ultimately played in Oakland with the Raiders with Colton Underwood. And so, anyway, I remember talking with Colton about after The Bachelorette was over, he was, deciding whether to do The Bachelor or not. And he was like, I feel like the franchise, as he called it, did a lot of good for me. And I'm just trying to figure out if doing this is what the next step is that I want to take. And obviously, ultimately, he ended up doing it. But what was the post Bachelor life like? I mean, obviously, way different than the pre-Bachelor life.
Yeah, there's so many things that are different. One is here's the oddest part of the whole thing. For whatever reason, I am taken more legitimate now than I was before The Bachelor. Like, people now pay me to come and speak at things because I was a bachelor. Because I dated 28 women on national TV, cried, and then had a breakup. Yeah. People were like, "Hey, you should come speak at my conference." All right, let's do that. That's weird, but great, because I love it, and I love to talk to people, and I love to share my life story with people, and I love to hear their life story. It is a dream that I get to do that, and so that's a difference. The other part is, you obviously, like, I now have a podcast, and I'm on TV more. And I'm kind of used to that. It doesn't shake me up a bit. I mean, I remember back maybe 8 years ago, I was on my local news network, and I was so jacked to see myself on TV. Now I don't even watch half the shows I'm on. Yeah. That's a weird thing. But for the most part, my life hasn't changed that much. Actually, right now I'm sitting, and I apologize if the audio's not great. I'm sitting in the same car I've driven since my junior year of high school, and I still drive it today. I live in the same house. I have the same friends. My friend group's expanded. My job has changed, but it's not much different. I now do coffee for a living. For the most part, things internally hasn't changed. It's just kind of the outside, I think, and the opportunities I get that have been enhanced.
Have you been really conscious on maintaining that lifestyle that you were living? Like, hey, I'm not going to buy a new car, even though I could. I'm not going to buy a new house.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, part of this is, when you're the bachelor, the world celebrates you at one time. And then also there's critics, so those hurt. But for the most part, when you're the bachelor or bachelorette, national television gets behind you. And it can really inflate your ego. And so, and I knew myself, and I knew I was really susceptible to having my ego super inflated. And so I made some really conscious decisions to say, I am not going to change up everything until it's wise in life, until, I know I'm doing it because it's a necessity and not just out of like want. And I've tried to stick to that. I'm glad I have. Honestly, it's worked out so far, because the man I was 6 years ago, outside of the fact that I was just unhappy and kind of lost, but internally, it doesn't feel like I don't know myself today based on who I was 6 years ago.
Wow. Props to you, man.
Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Is there something that interferes with your happiness or is preventing you from achieving your goals? BetterHelp Online Counseling is there for you. Connect with your professional counselor in a safe and private online environment. It's super convenient, and you can get help on your own time at your own pace. You can schedule secure video or phone sessions, plus chat and text with your therapist. BetterHelp's licensed professional counselors are specialized in depression, stress, anxiety, relationships, and more. And remember, anything you share is confidential. If you're not happy with your counselor for any reason, you can request a new one at any time at no additional charge. They have over 3,000 U.S. licensed therapists across 50 states. It's available worldwide, and you can start communicating in under 24 hours. BetterHelp is the most secure, professional, and affordable way to talk to a licensed professional. Best of all, it's a truly affordable option. Redirected listeners get 10% off your first month with discount code REDIRECTED. So why not get started today? Go to betterhelp.com/redirected. Simply fill out a questionnaire to help them assess your needs and get matched with your counselor. Simply fill out a questionnaire to help them assess your needs and get matched with a counselor you'll love. That's betterhelp.com/redirected.
So I'm imagining this is kind of how it went down. Like you get off the show, and then you're doing all like the TV and these appearances. But then two and a half years ago, you took a trip to Honduras, and I'd love to hear what happened there.
Yeah, man. Thank you for asking this. This is awesome. So, 15 years ago, I actually took my first trip to Honduras with an organization called Humanity and Hope United. And during this trip, my buddy and I saw a need to support people in these communities that have been forgotten and lost, without giving them things, but by offering them help. And so my buddy, who's a lot smarter than me, started this organization called Humanity and Hope. And what it does is it does community development in rural communities in Central America. So we go in, we ask them 3 questions. What do you need? What do you want? And what do you dream of? And then from those 3 questions, we build a strategic plan that helps implement small businesses, that helps implement clean water projects, education and healthcare, build better houses and infrastructure. And through this whole experience, there's no like, hey, let me give you a handout. It's, hey, how do we work with you to get there? Well, this organization is flourishing. It's going great, and people's lives are truly being changed by it. But the fundraising side of it is terrible. And so my buddy, who was the founder and president, asked me to be on the board of directors about 3 years ago. And my role on the board was fundraising. So right when I got on the board, I took a trip to Honduras, realized that I was going to really hate the idea of calling random people asking for money. And so the alternative was, hey, how do we come up with an idea that supports the nonprofit, that helps with fundraising without having to ask people for money every year, year over year over year. So we started the company called Generous International, which is a for-profit company that I now operate as my full-time job. We sell products from the developing world, mostly coffee, and then we donate 100% of the profits back to organizations that are doing some type of work to fight human injustice. Humanity and Hope is our main beneficiary, though. And yeah, so that's what this trip to Honduras 2 years ago did. It helped open my eyes to the fact that there was the ability to sell coffee, support great organizations, and build a tremendous community around the idea of doing good.
Wow, that's amazing. So a couple things. One, we have a couple overlapping interests. I went to school at Vanderbilt, studied civil engineering with the intention that afterwards I was going to start, like, I wanted to bring clean water to people who didn't have it. And that's, civil engineering was what I thought was the best path to do it. So I actually want to continue conversations with you after the show about humanity and hope. But then also, I think the first time I reached out to you, I mentioned I wanted to talk coffee to you. And like 4 months ago, I dove deep into the coffee world. And it is like, I think the stat I read was over 100 million people make their living off of coffee. And there's so many injustices involved with that. And so you selling a product, giving it back, like ultimately helping the farmers that are growing the coffee, but then giving the some of the profits back to people in need. I know you've given a lot to like women-led businesses, which is fantastic. Yeah. And you've donated over like 30 grand in profit.
Yeah, definitely. And so we're in a weird season right now where we just started to invest into doing some coffee shops with the idea of a long-term growth. And so we're actually not profitable this year, which was planned, right, because of our investment in the coffee shops. But in next year, I have a feeling that we're going to explode way past 30 grand. We've done 30 grand so far in year 1. Year 2 has been a little bit different just because we've kind of reinvested into some ideas to help us grow further. And then I bet next year we blow 30 grand out of the water. First off, that's awesome. I'd love to talk. And man, it's so easy to, as a consumer, to go, wow, my coffee prices are good, it's low, so I'm going to buy this coffee. Right. Man, there's so many injustices in coffee. The producers are actually right now, because of what the price of coffee's at and what we're willing to spend as consumers, producers in Central America are actually losing money every year for everything they produce. So these farms are hundreds of years old. They have to produce the coffee. It's their only way of living. And they're growing these coffee plants, picking them, selling them, and losing money on the year. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely asinine. It's crazy. We have to do something about it because these people don't have clean water, yet the purchasers and the sellers in the United States are making millions upon billions of dollars. If you're going to get going on coffee, I could go for a while, but yeah.
It's also like it's super, like it is a hard work project. Like coffee is so work intensive where you watch these videos and people are like hand picking the beans and they're like, it's crazy to me. So hats off to you. And I was also listening to a couple of interviews. You guys pride yourselves on, it is the top quality coffee that you can buy, right? Generous Coffee.
Yeah, it is. So Generous Coffee, go to generouscoffee.com. It is specialty grade coffee. So everything we sell will be the highest graded coffee possible. So coffee is graded on a scale of 1 to 100. And The best of coffees, anywhere from 85 to 90 something. I don't think there's ever been an 100 grade coffee. But then we always sit in that kind of 85 to 90 world. And then, we sell it online. And then, like I said, we're starting to open up coffee shops. So one of the things we want to do, and it often happens when you have like for purpose businesses, we wanted to make sure that we provided the highest quality as well, because I mean, we could tell a story all day and try to convince people to do good and purchase good coffee or purchase coffee, but unless it's good, nobody's going to do it. And right. So, we do try to provide the best coffee.
Yeah. And you mentioned the coffee shops. You just opened your first coffee shop in Golden, Colorado. Is that right?
Yeah. First off, man, I really appreciate all the research you did, because this means a lot to me. A lot of times this stuff goes unnoticed and it kind of is difficult. But yeah, we just opened up in Golden, Colorado last week. Was our very first shop.
It's dude. Awesome. Let's go,
huge.
Bro.
Thank you. It's awesome, man. And we've had a line out the door ever since. I'm not kidding. Like, I bet right now, as I said in Westminster, I could call the shop operator and they'd be like, yeah, we have a line out the door today. It's been incredible. So if you're in Golden, come to the Tributary Marketplace and check out Generous Coffee. It is, and a lot of our causes are kind of put up on the board there where you can see what we're trying to do and who we're trying to help.
That's great. What's your go-to coffee order?
Right now I'm just a big fan of a really good Honduran drip because it has a good fruit backing to it. It's a little less dry. Like, I don't love a good dry, like harsh coffee.
Obviously we're sitting here doing a podcast and you have your own show called Almost Famous with Ashley I. You started this 2 years ago, and it was kind of pre everyone having their own podcast phase. So what started that?
Really very first proprietary podcast. It was started by one of the women who helped produce a lot of the big talk shows, Ryan Seacrest and Mario Lopez. She just had this idea. She's The Bachelor and talk about pop culture and see if it does anything for anybody. And we started like, all right, let's see if I ever make a dime off of this, and this could be funny and all this stuff. Long story short, we're 2 years in. Last week, we had the #1 episode in the country, and it is, I mean, I don't get paid from Generous. Like, Generous Coffee does not pay me an income because of just how we're set up and how it's modeled. The podcast puts food on my table now. It's a weird deal.
Yeah. Well, it's fun to listen to. You guys have a great dynamic. And you also, I'm sitting here watching the Bachelor finale. So, I feel like I have the classic story where my wife was big into the show, and then I was a skeptic, and I started watching it, and now I'm all in, dog. And I'm watching the finale, and they announced, Ben Higgins is doing Bachelor live on stage. So tell me what that's going to be like.
It's gonna be great. I have been out of like that Bachelor world for a few years now, and I try to help out where I can. But all of a sudden, I get a random phone call, and they said, "Hey, we're starting this live tour that we've been so excited about, and we want you to host it."
Wow!
And what the tour is this? Bachelor Nation has been so good to so many people. I mean, Grant, like we were just talking, I have a podcast that literally puts food on my table, and I get to talk about The Bachelor. I mean, it's not a bad life. It's pretty great. So Warner Brothers says we want to go city to city and hit up as many cities as you possibly can in next year to thank Bachelor Nation and to bring the show to them. And so we're going to actually have like how it would be set up on the show. We're going to do that, but in these local cities. We're going to 82 cities. I'm going to be hosting. We're going to have a bachelor, a couple suitors. They're going to be dating on stage in front of everybody. It's going to be wild. It's going to be really weird and awesome.
Wait, so it's actually like in each city, there's going to be a little bachelor.
Yeah, man. That's the crazy part. Yeah, and like, I mean, these these places that we have rented out to do the show at have anywhere from like 1,000 to 2,000 people. Some even have 4,000. So they're going to be dating in front of like 4,000 people.
Wow.
On TV. I'm telling you, it's like how awkward it is on the show, everybody, and it's going to help like really feel like the show is being done.
Dude, it's It's gonna be so much fun. Do you plan on rocking the mustache throughout the show, or what's the plan with that?
I hope so. Yeah, you know what, Andrew? I feel like as I get older, the mustache represents who I am better and better. And so I think, and really, if you think about the best hosts in the history of the world, they all have mustaches. I mean,
no, who are you talking about?
Alex Trebek. He used to have a good mustache. That's what I think of. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We got one example. That's fair.
That's it. That's all I
need. You're right. The argument does kind of end after that. Okay. And then, so you have plenty that you're working on, but right now you're also rocking the Top Gun look with the shades on, driving around in Spotty Service, Colorado, I believe, but you're doing a wedding festival. Tell me about it.
Yeah, the reason I'm driving around right now is because I've been traveling for the last month and a half away from Denver, and I just got back this week. And one of the things that are coming up in my life is we've planned a food and beverage festival in Denver, and I had to drive up to check out our location actually today. And so I'm up here right now in Westminster, Colorado, to check out the grounds for the wedding festival. The wedding festival is this. So my buddies are getting married, and they're event planners, so they know thousands of people across the U.S. And then one night we're sitting at dinner, they're like, how are we ever going to do a wedding and not offend half of our friends? And long story short, we came up with an idea to do a wedding festival where they would get married, and then it would be this food and beverage festival kind of around their wedding so they can invite thousands of people to it. Well, then it got enhanced to say, well, what if we invited others into your wedding to get married as well? So now here's the deal. 10 couples are going to get married at one time on a stage. And then the reception is going to be a massive joint reception where food and beverage representatives from all over Denver are coming in to kind of sponsor and support and offer the best food, the best beverages. And we're going to celebrate all these weddings at one time. So not only does it lower the cost for the couples to get married, but I also think it's going to enhance their wedding experience because it's going to be a massive celebration with a bunch of strangers and friends just enjoying themselves. And so it's going to be crazy. I'm going to be marrying the couples. I am the officiant. So it's going to be weird. It's going to be wacky, but it's going to be a blast.
Dude, I am all in on this concept, Ben. I freaking love it, dude. What? That's going to be a blast. Yeah. Here's the thing. I think it's, dude, the way our culture, like, I hate the wedding culture that we have now. And like, you drop however much and then you're offending your whole family. It's like, dude, I would rather elope, but now I would rather go to the wedding. What's it called?
It's called the wedding party. It's huge. I mean, think about it this way. You're right. So weddings they cost so much money. They take up so much time. Somebody's always going to be mad at it. You know, your best man is going to feel, the guy that's not your best man is going to feel like he should have been your best man. All these things happen. And it's like, we're missing the point. It's a celebration of love and commitment. And so what if, Andrew, like, you're getting married and 5 of your other friends are getting married like around the same time? What if you all joined up and did a joint wedding? That's a massive celebration. Like, instead of putting, you know, whatever, 20, 30, 40 grand towards your wedding, you all kind of break up those costs, and instead you just have a blowout party. That's what we want to do here because at the end of the day, it's really about celebrating the couples.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the magic in a wedding, like, you know, when you're going to weddings, it's all like, oh, who am I going to meet? Like, what stranger am I going to have this, like, you know, the connection that only comes with a wedding party. Like, I love it, man. Hats off to you.
Yeah, so I'm pumped about it. That goes on. That's happening September 1st. So right now, yeah. Again, I apologize for the lack of clear service, but I'm up here checking out the venue, which is a beautiful spot in Westminster, Colorado.
Wow. So you got your ordained in your wedding officiant responsibilities?
Oh yeah, dude. I've done 2 weddings this year already, so I'm ready to go. I'm well practiced.
Okay, that's great, man. Okay, it's so fun talking to you because you seem like a guy that has some crazy ideas, you could call it, but you make them happen.
Oh, I'm a weirdo.
You don't just let it die in the thought process. You actually follow through. So hats off.
Thanks, man. That's maybe the first time anybody's ever said that to me. Because I got some weird ideas, and some of them have failed mightily. But the coolest part is having these weird ideas and then standing back and seeing stuff happen. And like, yeah. I mean, it's fun to create. So I appreciate you saying that. It means that does mean a lot.
It is fun to create. I wish I would do it more. I wish other people would do it more. Okay, so I was listening to you talking to someone, and you said that you wanted in a partner somebody who is honest, vulnerable, and full of love. Why are honesty and vulnerability top 2 on your list there, Ben?
Well, I believe one thing is, we're in a time in life where we like to use the word divisive. If it's politics, religion, if it's relationships, marriage, whatever it is, we always seem to be using this word divisive. And I kind of I don't feel like we're in the most divisive time. I think we're in the most isolated time. And so the question then is, if we're in the most isolated time, how do we connect to people? How do we connect to romantic relationships and all that? And I think it's through our vulnerability and our honesty, and really through each of us admitting that we don't have it all together, that we're lacking a lot of things, but we're trying really hard. And so in a life partner, I want to find somebody that, wakes up in the morning and says, I'm hurting, I'm struggling, and I can be there for them, and vice versa. And then also I want to find a partner that I get to know at their core who they are as a person and who they want to be. And I think vulnerability allows that. So that's why I want to do those things, because ultimately, if I'm going to be partnering up with somebody for life, I want to actually be a partner to them. And I actually want to be a support system, not just in the good times, but bad. And it's easy to show off when we're in the good times, but the bad's when I think real connection happens.
Yeah, well said, man. I really resonated with that, because Shawn and I talk about all the time. We have one rule in our relationship, and that's we call it transparency. Like, just be honest. And we were both, when we met, at a phase where, like, we had been a part of relationships that we weren't, like, really truly ourselves. We're trying to cater to the other person and, like, what they wanted. And so it's like, hey, you know what? If you're mad at me, like, I would really appreciate it if you express that, because that's the only way that we can grow, and the only way we could, mature as humans. So I like the honesty, vulnerability, and love. So you mentioned you do these speaking events. What is the main message that you try to convey when you speak?
I think for the most part, it's this. People come to these events because they probably watch me on television, and let's say this, for example. I just spoke at an event. It was an influencer event, is what it was called. And one of the things at this event was, there's 2 messages I wanted to share. One is that we're all influencers, that none of us are anonymous, that just because you have a social media following doesn't make you any less purposeful than any other person. And so one message is that each human has a purpose to pursue something they're passionate about. And then I hope that purpose and what they're passionate about is something that's doing good for the world. The next is that nobody's anonymous. It has a circle of influence, and within that circle of influence, you need to be a community creator. And so I always talk about how, we always sit. One of the common things that I hear often is that that people don't feel connected to a community, and that's a great possibility, especially when the world's swirling around us as fast as it is. But my hope is that when you see that need and you feel disconnected from a community, you would go out then and create the community that you're desiring or that you see. And I think each of us have that ability. So those are the main messages, is that everybody has a purpose, everybody has a role in this world, and that each of us have the ability to create authentic communities that are doing something good for the world.
That's great, man. When people ask me for advice on, like, hey, like, should I date this person, or should I take this job, or should I go to this school? My advice is always, if it draws you into closer community with other people, that's the right choice. If it pulls you away, like if you're dating somebody that just wants to, like, consume all your time, not the right choice, probably, so
you're right. Wow. That's a great point.
Okay. So we'll close with, I usually ask the same 2 questions, which are, what are your goals? And then 3 pieces of advice that you've learned professionally or personally, that you want to share with the audience. But instead of asking, what are your goals, I want to throw this question that you mentioned earlier back at you. What is it that you need? What is it that you want? And what is it that you dream of, Ben Higgins?
Oh, wow. That's great. Wow. What do I need? I need connection with people, and God. So I need relational connection, and I need a connection with God. That's the thing that, you know, ultimately fills me. And also that it would if I didn't have it, it'd be what would paralyze me. So that's what I need. What do I want? I want to leave a legacy on this world that will be at some level impactful on somebody. I want that. I want to be a part of incredible stories. I want to be a part of tangible difference, and I want to be able to sit down at night, really after as many days as possible, and say today was a good day. And what do I dream of? I dream of a world that is curious, and I dream of a community of people that is curious enough to desire to do to understand people better, and as a result will make a bigger impact for the common good, because they understand people and their needs and their wants and their insecurities better, and all those things wrap around, really, I think, what I see my purpose being, and that's being a part of these cool stories that are just trying to connect people with people.
Wow, man. Fantastic answer. What are 3 pieces of advice that you want to share with the audience that you've learned in your journey?
Be slow to react. Be unashamedly, shamedly. Be unashamed of being incredibly curious, and listen more than you talk.
Whoa, dude. Man, I had heard really good things about you before this interview, but you exceeded those in this past hour. So thank you for the time, Ben. Really appreciate you joining, and it's good to meet you.
Man, Andrew, it's good to meet you too. Let's talk coffee offline, and then again, if at any level this the quality of this was bad, it's not Andrew's fault, it's mine, because I've been up visiting venues.
Yeah, man. Well, we're excited about it.